Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're cracking open the psychological playbook that pretty much governs how we're influenced every single day. We're going to explore the hidden forces that really shape our choices. So, have you ever really stopped to wonder why you say yes to some things but no to others? You know, it's not just random chance. More often than not, it's all part of this invisible game of persuasion that's governed by a very specific set of psychological rules. Okay, so let's actually open up this playbook. Let's break down the strategies and the tactics that shape our choices, from what we buy to who we believe. Now, before we can even get into the plays, we need to understand the field. And that playing field, it's our own minds. Our brains have this kind of default operating system, and let me tell you, it absolutely loves taking the easy route. You see, our brains are basically hardwired to save energy. It's an old survival trait. And to do this, they naturally lean on these quick mental shortcuts, or heuristics, to get through thousands of daily decisions without completely short-circuiting. But here's the thing about these shortcuts. They're not perfect. They create these predictable little glitches in our thinking, and we call them cognitive biases. And understanding these glitches, that's the first step to really understanding influence. Just take a look at these two. They're super common, and they both show how much our brain wants to stay consistent. Confirmation bias means we just love information that proves what we already think. And anchoring bias? That's when we get stuck on the very first thing we hear, and it colors everything that comes after.
All right, so now that we get the brain's operating system, let's get into the first set of plays. How to craft a message that has maximum impact. I mean, knowing how the brain works is one thing. Putting it into practice is a whole other ballgame.
A truly persuasive message is never just a boring list of facts. It's got to have these 4 key things. It wraps everything up in a good story, it connects with you emotionally, it presents the info in just the right way, and, crucially, it shows you that other people are already on board.
Let's zoom in on one of these because it is incredibly powerful. It's called framing. It's all about how you present information. It doesn't change the facts one bit, but it can completely change how we feel about them. Let me show you what I mean with a classic example.
Okay, listen to this. A surgical procedure with a 90% survival rate. How does that sound? Pretty good, right? It feels positive, reassuring, safe. Our brain hears that 90% and just focuses on success. Now, what if I said this instead? A surgical procedure with a 10% mortality rate. Whoa! See? It's the exact same data, but by focusing on mortality, it suddenly feels way, way riskier. The frame changes everything, even when the picture is identical. At our core, we're social creatures. I mean, think about it. When we're not sure what to do, what's our first instinct? We look around to see what everyone else is doing. That is the power of social proof, and it's exactly why things like customer testimonials, 5-star reviews, and expert endorsements work so well. Okay, now we're getting to the power plays. These are 3 fundamental human drivers that are just central to persuasion. They're deeply, deeply ingrained in our social DNA. First up, we've got reciprocity. You know when someone gives you something, like a free sample or even just a compliment, you feel this powerful subconscious need to give something back. It's like a social debt your brain feels like it has to repay. Second is commitment inconsistency. Once we agree to one small thing, like, say, signing a petition, we feel this internal pressure to stay consistent with that decision. That makes us way more likely to agree to a bigger, related request later on. Our brain just hates to contradict itself. And number 3 is scarcity. You see this everywhere. Phrases like limited time offer or only 3 left in stock. They tap directly into our fear of missing out. We are fundamentally wired to want things more if we think they're about to disappear. It just pushes us to act fast. But here's the thing. All these individual plays we've talked about, framing, social proof, scarcity, they're really just tactics. For them to work in a meaningful way, they have to be held together by one master strategy. This is the core of the entire playbook. You could master every single technique we've discussed. You could be a framing genius, a scarcity wizard, but it'll all fall apart in the long run if you're missing one critical, essential element. And that one thing is trust. It is the absolute foundation of any effective ethical persuasion. Without trust, messages just fall flat, influence completely crumbles, and relationships break. It is the currency of all human interaction. And building trust isn't a tactic, it's something you earn. It stands on these 4 key pillars. Credibility, which is really just showing you know your stuff. Empathy, which means genuinely understanding how others feel. Consistency, which is being reliable over time. And transparency, just being open and honest about your intentions.
So, the ultimate principle here is this: effective influence is not a zero-sum game. It's all about creating win-win outcomes that benefit everybody. The goal should always be a long-term connection, not some short-term trek, because in the end, that's what actually works. So the big takeaway here is that you're now equipped with a new lens. You can see this invisible game of influence playing out absolutely everywhere, from ads on TV to news reports to your own conversations every single day. You understand the plays, you know the principles, and you get the ethics behind it all. So the final question is, how is this going to change the way you see the world? And maybe more importantly, how you communicate within it?